Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
All right. So should I just get rolling, or do we have another intro we need to do first? Don't want to step on any toes here.
No, it's all you.
Cool. Great. All right. Well, let me share my screen here and we'll get started. Oh, looks like that's disabled. If you don't mind turning that on, and then I'll get going. So while we're waiting on that, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Nick Niehaus. I'm the co-founder of a business called Business Video School, and we're going to talk about AI today. So I'm going to hopefully give you some ideas with AI that you maybe haven't seen yet. This is somewhat new. It's something we're kind of experimenting with. So I'm going to give you something that you can do yourself technically. All right. So this is relatively straightforward what I'm about to show you, but it is technical. There are going to be some steps you're going to see that involve some code. You do not need to know how to write any code. All right. To be clear, I don't know how to write any code. I'm going to show you how I did this without knowing how to do that yourself, but you will need to write a few sentences in English. All right. So that's kind of the only requirement you're going to see here today. So let me start out by just showing you kind of what the heck I'm talking about. So a few months back, just to tell you a quick story here about kind of how I got to this idea in the first place, we were, AI obviously over the past 9 months or so has sort of exploded. ChatGPT came out, one of the fastest growing platforms in the history of the planet. Very exciting stuff. So, one of my first thoughts was, okay, I've got a computer now that is artificial intelligence that I can have a conversation with. That is absolutely amazing. I'm just going to go play with it. So I spent some time doing that, right? So I've got my chat GPT opened up over here. I've got all these conversations I've been having over the previous so many months, all that kind of good stuff. And after a while, I started to realize, well, what's cool about this stuff is it can actually write code. You can go to chat GPT. And in fact, let me just show you an example here. Here's a chat I have going. And before here, I was having chat GPT write me Python code, right? So this is about 5-6 months ago. And I'm thinking, well, if I can have it write code, I took a couple coding classes in college. Now, granted, I was partnered in those classes, well, the first time with like one of the smartest people, maybe the smartest guy I've ever met in my entire life. And he did all the work. So I did not actually learn as much as I should have. Second time through, they partnered me with the other dumb guy in the class, and we both basically failed. So I don't really know how to code, but I am familiar with, I look at some code and it doesn't really scare me. Okay. So if you're looking at this and you're going import, open AI, what is all this stuff? I have no idea. That's okay, because ChatGPT will actually make all those decisions for you. Right. So let me show you kind of where I ended up here. So as I'm thinking this stuff through, I went, maybe there's a way for me to build my own AI tool. I noticed a few months ago, OpenAI released their API, which basically just means that us normal people and companies and really anybody who wants to give them a little bit of money can access their tool, right? So I started to say, okay, well, what could we do if we could build our own AI tools? What are some things we could create? And one of the sort of basic rules in the business world is that people do not like complexity, right? If we don't understand how something works, if we can't sit down and use a tool right away immediately without asking a lot of questions, we tend to be afraid of it. We tend to be, sort of shy away from using it, right? So I noticed this. I did a workshop with a bunch of other marketers, and we were talking about ChatGPT, and I was like, all right, it's just like a person. You just talk to it. You say, hey, how's it going? And it'll ask you a question, and you go back and forth. And yet the entire room full of people just still froze up. They were like, yeah, but what do I say? And how do I talk to it? And what am I supposed to be getting from it? And it was just sort of this sense of overwhelm. So this is where I ended up. I started to say, okay, what if we could make AI tools that only did one thing? So they just do very one specific thing. They don't do anything else. There's sort of no complexity. And would that make it easier for people to use? And then also, is that then something that we could give away, right? So part of my theory of AI is that somehow a lot of these tools are actually so affordable that I think we're going to see them end up becoming free, just like we did with social media, right? And I would imagine that what I'm doing here today is something you're going to see a lot more companies doing here in the relatively near future. So this is a prototype. This is early stage. This is something that we're just starting to kind of experiment with, but I wanted to share this idea with you today. So if you want to jump on it, you absolutely can. This is a neighborhood matchmaker. All right. So what this tool does, this is built on OpenAI's technology. But what you do is you come in here and you say, you give it a city. So I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm just going to use St. Louis. And that way I'll know if the neighborhoods it recommends actually make sense. And then the next thing they do is they can list up to 5 amenities that they're looking for, right? What are some of the features of the area that are important to them? They could say things like, good schools. They could say, fun nightlife, things like that, right? And so they type out whatever they want there. Next, they get an option for kind of the neighborhood type. Now, these don't all exist in all areas, and it'll actually recognize that. If I say beachfront, and then I say I'm in St. Louis, it's going to respond. I've done this before and say, hey, there are no beaches in St. Louis, but here's how you can get close to some water, okay? So it does know that stuff. So I'm just going to say, in this case, let's say suburban. And actually, I'm going to switch that to urban because I do personally live in the city. So I want to see what it says in terms of that. And then proximity to the amenities. How far away are you willing to be from that stuff? Do you want to be able to walk to it? Are you willing to drive a little bit? Blah, 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 right? They fill those 4 things in and they click submit. And this is what I mean by intentionally keeping this tool simple. This tool will only do this. It will not answer with anything else. So it's not going to come back and say, oh, okay, I found a bunch of other ideas, or hey, do you want me to recommend some recipes or anything like that? It is pre-built to only recommend neighborhoods, right? So here we go. Here's the output that we get. So this is based on the preferences for good schools, a fun nightlife, and you want the urban setting, low walking distance, all that kind of stuff. We got Central West End, the Loop, Soulard, Downtown, and Lafayette Square. And I can confirm that all 5 of those are actual real city or actual real neighborhoods in St. Louis, right? In fact, those are all in the city limits of St. Louis, which makes sense because we asked for urban, right? Now, just to sort of experiment here a little bit, if I come back to this and I switch it to rural and I submit it again, I should get different answers, right? So this is just one kind of tool, right? Now, there's all different kinds of things you can create here. You can create, tools that will help people stage their home. You can give them tools that will help them make decisions about how to price their home, things like that. And then here we go. We get other neighborhoods listed, right? So that's kind of the idea. It's going to give us different recommendations based on what we put in. So here's the idea how you use this, right? One thing that I noticed, and this is really important, is that when I started making these tools, one of the very first things that I did, so I run a school that teaches real estate agents how to use video, and I always thought it'd be really cool if we could write scripts for them, right? If we had an AI tool that just wrote really good, like 1-minute long scripts, because now everything's obviously focused on these short videos. And so I built this tool and we started testing it. And we have, hundreds of students kind of testing and trying this stuff. And then I went into the back end of the API on OpenAI and looked at the cost. How much money had I spent? And it was pennies. So I had hundreds of people try and use these tools, right? Hundreds of iterations of these scripts being generated, the kind of stuff that would take a human probably 30 minutes per script to come up with. And this AI is doing it in 10 seconds. And it cost me like 75 cents total. Mind-boggling, right? So granted, that's not the only expense you might run into here. Obviously, this is a landing page that I designed that I put the tool inside of. And I'm going to show you a few of these steps just so you can kind of get the ball rolling if you'd like to do this. But that's about it, right? In terms of the cost of the AI processing power, in terms of the thing that AI is doing for you, it is remarkably affordable, right? What that led me to is here, right? And I've already kind of told you the idea, which is this is something we give away. So we're not selling this to someone. We're not making them pay us in any way, shape, or form to access it. We are giving it away as a way to generate leads. Okay, so let me show you one other page here. I'll just pull up real quick. And I apologize, I probably should have had this one open beforehand. But just to show you what I mean here. So this second page that I'm showing you now, this is what we built to get people to sign up to use the tool, right? So there's lots of different ways to do this. You could run a Facebook lead gen ad with a lead form in it, and then they get a link to that page. But this is the first page, right? So the basic idea is I'm going to make this tool, and I'm going to show you how to do some of that in just a second. It's surprisingly straightforward. And then I'm going to embed it into my landing page. And then I'm going to create a second landing page where I tell people about the tool. I ask them to sign up. and then they get access to it, right? So it's really, really simple. So, it's just like, imagine you had a list of homes for sale. Like, I've got this list, it's 10 homes for sale under $400,000 in this area. Click here to download it. Same exact idea, right? So in this case, it's, hey, I have a neighborhood matchmaker AI tool. It'll help you make decisions about maybe what neighborhood you should be looking at moving into. And then obviously the idea is that once they get some recommendations for neighborhoods, they start thinking about where they might want to live. Then they reach out to look at homes in those areas. Okay. So there's just 2 steps. That's really it. They come to this page. Now, this video, which I won't play right now because we don't have a ton of time, but it's just me showing the tool and how it works. And then saying, if you want access to it, fill out this form next to me. Then they come to this page. This video is a little longer. It shows them how to use the tool in a little bit more detail. And the most important part is it also mentions that AI is not perfect, right? So this is another way to kind of distinguish yourself from the AI, kind of protecting your career and your job and your role in the transaction, right? We want to make sure people understand that we're still very valuable, that AI is not replacing us. And so what I recommend that we do here is you explain this tool is very useful. It's great for getting the juices going, right? It's good for getting the ideas flowing. It is not going to always give you 100% accurate information because AI sometimes makes mistakes. So what I'd like you to do is use the tool, use it a couple of times if you want to kind of experiment with it, get some ideas, then come to the bottom of the page and fill out this form, and I'll get in touch and I can send you a list of homes that are for sale in that area. We can go look at some of those homes. I can answer your questions you might have, all that kind of good stuff, right? So there are videos involved here. Now, you can do this without the videos, right? I mean, it's just kind of up to you. Obviously, there's a lot of flexibility here, but I really encourage you to consider incorporating the video, because what you're doing there is we're capturing these leads because people are curious about AI and they think your tool might be useful to them, right? That's great. We want them to think that way. But by the time they're done using the tool, we want them to think, hey, this agent is the one that I want to hire when I'm ready to move, right? I mean, that's the whole point of lead generation. So when we put that video in front of them, we're introducing ourselves, we're making it real, right? So we're giving them that experience that feels like we're actually there in front of them, showing them how to use this thing that they're hopefully going to find very valuable. And that's going to build a relationship, right? So especially if they watch both of those videos, you're also, here's an important part too. In this video, I scroll down and I show them where this form is and I explain what will happen if they fill it out, right? Now they have a ton of clarity. They know who I am. They've met me. If they do go and sign up on some other agent's site, I'm going to be more real to them. They're going to be more likely to remember me. And they're also going to associate the fun and the kind of cool factor of using this AI tool that they've never seen before in their lives. I mean, there's nothing like this out there yet. And they're going to associate that with you. Okay. So there's a lot of positives there to putting yourself on camera, even if it is a little bit intimidating, right? So if you're curious, and again, I'm not doing too much on the video side of things today, but if you are curious, I recorded this with a tool called Vidyard. So VIDYARD. It's a video messaging tool normally, but you can also embed videos with it. And it's really, really simple to use. In fact, everything I did here in terms of recording, a screen recording, and actually, I'm just going to play a couple seconds just so you can see what I mean by the screen recording. And for a suburban, or let's go with urban, actually, in this case. And then last is proximity to those amenities. I'm going to say, all right, so I'm just showing you kind of where I am and the fact that you can hear me, you can see me, but I'm also able to kind of get out of the way. So it's a screen recording that I'm also in, right? That's the important part. So Vidyard, you can actually do all that for free. So if you want to go through and build all this yourself, you're going to have a landing page builder, somewhere where you can embed the code for the AI. That's really your only cost, though, right? And again, that's if you do everything yourself. Now, if obviously you want to hire somebody to do this for you, it's going to be substantially more expensive, totally worth it still, probably, but just keep that in mind, all right? Okay, so that's kind of the intro to all this. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see what you think. So if you want to sort of jump down in the chat or the comments and let me know, could you see yourself using something like this in your business? Do you think that there are people in your community that might find some value in having access to something like this as a way to try to capture some contact information, right? So this is relatively new, like I said, and I am trying to gain some feedback on it. I have gotten feedback from a few other folks, but I'd love to hear what you think. And what I'm going to do in the second half here is I'm going to show you some of the steps you would go through to develop this yourself, all right? Now, before I do that, I do want to warn you, I'm going to move pretty quick, right? I mean, I've got 15 minutes. I'm just going to show you a quick overview here. And this is obviously some technical stuff, took me some time to figure out. However, that being said, it's actually not all that complicated, okay? So step number one, I'm going to start here. All right, let's go over to a website. It's called Hugging Face. So huggingface.co. And I'll tell you right now, all this stuff is the names on these companies are just ridiculous, right? I haven't looked into why they're called Hugging Face. It probably has something to do with some sort of sci-fi movie, of course, right? But what it does, this platform is really cool. Their mission is basically to democratize AI, to make it really easy for people to access and use and experiment with AI. So here we go. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put this link here in at least on the chat here inside of the Zoom meeting. So I don't know if we're streaming this anywhere else or if you're watching the recording, maybe we can share that there as well. But this will take you to something I built as an experiment. This is a lead generation idea generator, right? So the idea here is we come in here and we say, I'm a roofer and I want to get clients who have slate roofs. All right. I'm literally just making this up on the spot. I did not prepare that or anything. You click submit and it's going to generate ideas for how to get leads, right? So just a lead generation idea generator, kind of using the same word twice there, but you get the idea, right? So in a second here, it'll pop up and it'll give us ideas for leads. Now you can use that, right? So what's nice about Hugging Face is if you build something on here, it is public and other people can use it. They can come on, they can experiment with it. That's kind of the point of this platform. The way I'm using it is a little bit different. Okay. So it's not quite in alignment with sort of what it's intended for, but that's okay. Right. I mean, they haven't said that I'm doing anything inappropriate. And so what I'm going to show you how to do is how to rip off this code and turn it into whatever you want. Right. So if you want to make that neighborhood matchmaker, you can do that. If you want to make something else, you want to make a staging developer, whatever, some suggestions on what to stage the house with, things like that. There's literally a whole bunch of possibilities here. So here's how we're going to do this, right? So first thing we're going to do, and again, if this is complicated, all right, if this is going to feel overwhelming to you, I get it. Okay, this is pretty technical stuff. You can obviously pay somebody to do this for you. So the first thing you're going to do here, if you go to this space, is you click on duplicate this space. All right. Now you're going to need to go and get a secret key from OpenAI. I'm not going to show you how to do that right now. It's actually really simple. If you just look up how to sign up for an API account, it's free to do so. It's very straightforward. You only pay for the amount of processing power you use. So you go to openai.com, go to their API, sign up, takes like 1 minute, put your credit card in, right? Make sure that the payment details are in there. And then you're going to generate a key and you're going to put it in here. Okay. So again, if that's a little technical, I get it, but it's relatively straightforward. There's videos on YouTube on how to do it, and just don't have time to show you every single step right now. And you paste that key here, and then you click on duplicate the space. Oh, one other thing is you probably want to just switch this to public while you're at it, so it's ready to go and you can embed it later. Once you've done that, you're going to have a copy of this tool, right? So if you like the idea of having a copy of a lead generation idea generator, that's how you do it. Go for it, okay? Next thing we're going to do, and let me show you where I click just to be careful here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click up here on Files. All right. Now here under Files, we're going to go to app.py, this third file right here. All right. And this is my trigger warning for you. If you ever took a coding class and hated it, you're about to see some Python code. Okay. So we click here and here we go. Now, what I want to point out here is this is it. If I scroll down, right, there's 52 total lines, a lot of which are just spaces. There's probably about 40 total lines of code. This is the whole tool. I mean, there's one other small file or some background stuff. But in terms of what you got to mess with, this is really it. Now, here's the good news, right? The only part you really ever are going to need to make any changes to is this section here. And so the way this works is that this is basically, it's called the initial message in this tool. You can think of it as the prompt, right? So if you've heard about prompt design and how to talk to AI in a way that gets it to do what you want it to do, this is that word, those words, right? This is the prompt. So this is where we're telling it how to behave. And this is why it only does one thing, right? So we got to be careful here. This is the only part that's actually kind of tricky. So what I'm going to show you how to do, though, is you don't have to even write this, because you can use ChatGPT to do it, okay? So here's what we're going to do instead. Instead of actually editing that and messing around with it, which we certainly could, we're just going to highlight this. I'm going to copy the whole thing. And then we open up our chat GPT. All right, this is the chat I had going earlier. And we say, I want to rewrite this code to create a, I'm going to say home staging assistant. The tool will ask for details about the home for sale and the location, and will recommend items to use in the staging. Okay. Now, we're not going to necessarily get to a finished product here, right? We got 10 more minutes. I'm going to see what we can do. But I want you to just sort of pay attention to how far we get in just a few minutes. It is. I mean, this AI stuff is just sort of mind blowing, right? So I'm going to say, next thing I'm going to say is, here's the code. Please rewrite it so it works as this new tool. Okay. Then I hit shift and return twice just to give it a little space. And then I hit copy, I hit paste all that code in, and then hit return. Okay. Again, it's gonna give us whatever it gives us. And I will emphasize this a lot, right? Sometimes it's going to make mistakes. All right. Sometimes it's going to write code that is not what we were looking for. It's going to make some errors. Okay. And so we just have to work with it. And that's what's really cool about AI. And that's what's cool about ChatGPT is if you don't get what you would expect, you just have to redo it. Okay. That's really it. You just have to talk to it. All right. That's all we're looking for here. So if we get something in return and we go, you know what? I don't like this. You didn't include this box. You didn't include this input, add that input and then rewrite the code. Okay. And it'll do that all day. It's very simple. And here you go. Like I said, I am not a coder. I can look at some of the stuff and I know some of what it means. I'm not totally at a loss there. But there you go. I mean, it's writing the code from scratch. I mean, you can see here at the top, it has changed what the role of this assistant is, right? And I don't always like how it'll write really far to the right. There's ways to make it not do that. But you'll see here when we copy this in just a second, right? So it's going to say, consider the details of the home and its location, generate a list of items and strategies to use for staging the home, prioritize items that enhance the home's unique features. I didn't even tell it some of that stuff, right? It's coming up with that on its own. Okay, so there we go. So it wrote the code. So now what we're going to do is we copy the code. All right, we come back over to our tool. And actually, before I do this, well, I never really liked how this idea generator works, so I'm just going to replace it. We'll make a new one again later. So what we do is we click on the code and we edit it. And all we do is just delete it just to be safe and then paste in the new code. Okay. Then we come down here and we click on commit to changes. Commit changes to main, sorry. That's what that says. All right. So now, hypothetically, what this should be doing is it should be changing that tool from a tool that made ideas for how to generate leads, right? And now it should be a tool that makes suggestions on how to stage your home. And so we're going to switch over to this app tab right here. It's still building it, right? So it's still sort of assembling it. And there's no guarantee it's going to work, right? Because sometimes it rewrites the code and it makes an error, it makes a mistake, it sort of thinks the wrong way, so to speak, and it comes up with the wrong thing. So we're just going to sort of see what it comes up with here. But once it's done, it looks like it might be it still says building here. So we're going to give it another second. Let me just show you the next step while we're waiting. So what we're going to do once that's done is all we have to do is come up here to the top right. And we are going to actually, let's go to settings, make sure that this is, oh, where was that? Yeah, so right now it's set to private. In order to embed it, it has to be public, right? So I'm going to switch it to public. And then we come up here to this drop-down menu. Now you'll see embed this space. All right, so you click that and you copy the code right here. Copy this, and that's what you put on your website, right? So again, I know this is pretty technical stuff. So if you're not a technical person, quite honestly, I'm going to give you my phone number in the chat. That this is something that I'm not 100% sure. This really is just an experiment for me right now. But I am working with some people to build these for them from scratch and actually making them a custom AI tool as an experiment. I had to charge a little bit of money for that, obviously, but that's my cell phone number. If you want to reach out, it's in the chat. If you would like me to help you build one of these, all right, or if you just want me to build something for you. So if you're getting overwhelmed by it and you're like, I don't want to do this myself, just let's talk about it, right? I can see how I can help you out. So coming back to the app now, it's been generated. And there we go, right? Look at this thing, right? So again, all I did, I wrote like 4 total sentences, copied some code in, and then it said, okay, yeah, let me do my thing, right? So now it says home staging assistant. And at the top, it says this tool provides home staging recommendations for real estate agents. Describe the home's features and its location. The AI assistant will suggest items and strategies for staging the home to appeal to potential buyers. Now, this line doesn't make much sense for real estate agents, right? It should say for homeowners. What's interesting is the reason it did that is because over here in this AI tool chat, these threads inside of ChatGPT, they actually remember what you've said in the past. And I've told ChatGPT in this particular chat thread that it's supposed to make tools for real estate agents, right? So remembered that, and it actually referenced it in the tool, which is just kind of funny, right? So here you go. You got home details. This is where you want to describe the home's features, size, style, etc., and then location. So I'm going to say like this home is in St. Louis, Missouri, and let's just say 2,500 square feet. Walk, finished. Let's see. Let's just sort of think about finished basement and large family room, 4-bed, 3 full bath. Okay, let's just see what it does there. Again, I have no idea, right? Because we just made this tool from scratch on the spot. I have no idea how it's going to respond to this, but that's the idea, right? So what's happening on the back end is it is taking that same code. Most of the code you saw was just to make a platform that allows us to put a prompt into it. And so what it's doing is it's talking to ChatGPT and it's feeding that prompt, right? So that section it rewrote that was written in English that tells ChatGPT how to behave, that is being sent first, okay? So here we go. Now, again, this is the first one. So what I would normally do if we had more time is I would see how the results are. I'd put in 4 or 5 different things, and then I go back and I would work further on the tool, right? So one thing right off the bat that I can tell here is that this is probably not a good input. Home details, that's too broad, right? What do we really want? Do we want square footage? Do we want number of bedrooms? Do we want number of bathrooms? Do we want, where the windows are, right? I mean, what are the things that go into staging a home properly? And I might go back to ChatGPT and say, okay, this tool works, but rather than home details as an input, I want several boxes they can type into, or I want drop-down menus that they can select something from, and it will rewrite the code. It will create it that way, and you just copy and paste it back in here into Hugging Face, right? So this stuff, it again blows my mind. I mean, this stuff is so straightforward and sort of simple to use that once you get used to talking to ChatGPT, you can do almost anything, right? So again, there are technical steps, and that does take some time, but you do not need to know how to write any of this code. I did have to, the initial code you have on the back end there, I kind of put together from a couple different sources. But now that it's put together, you just talk to ChatGPT, you say, here's the existing code, change it and make something, right? So just to kind of wrap up here, you can see that what it came out with is, highlight the finished basement. It's a bonus living space or potential entertainment area. Set up a cozy seating area with comfortable furniture. Add some tasteful decorations to create a welcoming atmosphere. Not bad, right? I mean, not the most specific, where you might want more specific recommendations. So that's the kind of stuff you're going to change in the prompt. You're going to go back and say, we're going to recommend the style of furniture. We're going to recommend, exactly how they should lay it out, or, whatever it might be. Okay. So the sky's the limit. You can do quite a bit with this stuff. Just always remember that you have to test and adjust, and that will always be the case, right? You're going to have to do more than one test. I'm going to have to submit that same prompt several times, kind of see what it says, see what it comes up with, and just kind of have some fun with it, right? All right, so I don't want to go past our time here. I know that that is quite a bit to kind of take in overall, but just remember, if you work through this kind of one step at a time, most of it is done with ChatGPT. All you got to do is copy the code, paste it into ChatGPT, and then just talk to it, and then come back and paste it into Hugging Face, and then embed that tool into your website. All right. So if that's too technical, you just work with your IT person, or you can reach out to me at that phone number I put in the chat. Otherwise, give it a try, right? Because what we're at now, kind of where this is in terms of the adoption curve, there's not that many people who are, really well versed in AI yet, right? Not that many of them that are using this consistently. So if you're one of the first people in your market to come out and say, hey, I've got this AI tool, and it could be this matchmaker, it could be something else, right? It could be a stager, it could be but there's a million different ideas. I'm still kind of coming up with them every day. You could be the first in your market with that, right? You could have people joining your email list at an incredibly affordable rate. I mean, we are getting leads from real estate agents. I mean, our business advertises to realtors for just a few dollars a piece, right? And that's one of the hardest industries in the world to advertise to, because as you all know, you get bombarded all the time, right? So it's very effective. It's very novel. And it's just the kind of thing that if you get on it now and you give it a try, you're probably going to see some awesome results. All right. So that's all I got for you today. If you do want to stay in touch with me, my name's Nick Niehaus. You can see it there on the Zoom. So if you want to look me up on either LinkedIn or Facebook, those are probably the best places to connect. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you. So if we have time for one or two questions, I'm happy to take them. And then I know everybody's got to get running. So any questions I can answer real quick?
Hey, Nick, Mike Brown here. Hope you're doing well. Great presentation. Will this work on the free version of ChatGPT, or do you have to have the paid version of that?
Should work on the free. I do have the paid just so I can always access it.
I have the paid as well, yeah.
But yeah, it should work on the free because they work the same way, right? It's more about access and things like that. But you don't have to have internet connection through the ChatGPT or any of that. It just knows how to code because it's seen enough code, so it's pretty cool.
Cool. I just like the fact on the paid version, you got up-to-date information, whereas on the free version, it only goes to end of 21. Yeah.
Well, right. And so that's where, especially that internet feature kind of goes a long way. But yeah, for this stuff, a lot of it, and that's why you don't necessarily want to do like a, market update generator, right? You don't want to do stuff that's like would require accurate current data. I like to stick to stuff that's sort of more just opinion or, just fun information, that kind of thing. And that, again, it's just meant to get somebody in your database, right? So as long as it does that, it kind of covers the bases for you. So cool. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. All right. Any other final questions before we wrap up? All right, cool. Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you got something out of this. And like I said, connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook if you'd like to chat more.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.